After their daughter whispered a single, heart-stopping question, "Why did he touch me?" Susie Lamb raced to the only person she believed could help, her mother-in-law, Joni Lamb. Instead of grabbing a phone to call the police, Susie says, Joni told her to bring the child directly to her. In that quiet, one-on-one meeting, something unspoken passed between grandmother and granddaughter. When the little girl emerged, she was of lockbox, her memory of the abuse sealed away as if it had never occurred. "I don't know what was said," Susie later recounted. "She just stopped talking about it. She doesn't remember one thing." Jonathan Lamb, Susie's husband, added with bitter disbelief, "She doesn't even remember having that conversation. It's like it never happened." Texas law is unambiguous: anyone who suspects a child has been abused must report it immediately. Jonathan and Susie did so, quietly, hoping to protect their daughter from further heartbreak, and initially kept the matter secret from the rest of the family. Without a second statement from the child, the Colleyville Police Department closed the case. But the truth refused to stay buried. On the morning of August 3, 2021, at Daystar Television Network's annual executive retreat on the sugar white sands of Miramar Beach, Florida, the Lamb's fragile peace shattered. Jonathan rounded a corner in the rented beach house and froze. Pete, a male relative the family had long trusted, was alone with their daughter, who stood unclothed and wide-eyed. Adrenaline surged. He burst into the room, shouted, "What are you doing?" and watched Pete collapse into a tangle of apologies. 50, "I'm so sorry," delivered in a single panicked breath. Susie remembers Pete's eyes turning black, like he was in zombie mode. Fearing for their daughter's safety and desperate for action, Jonathan and Susie raced back to their parents, Marcus and Joni Lamb, believing the co-founders of Daystar would rally to protect their granddaughter. Instead, they encountered a wall of denial. Marcus, once a charismatic preacher who built Daystar into a billion-dollar global ministry, declared Pete innocent without hesitation. Joni, his widow and current president, echoed the sentiment: he loves his granddaughter. He only wanted to spend time with her. When Susie demanded an explanation, that doesn't explain why he was in her room with her clothes off. Joni blamed the child: she took her clothes off herself. For the next 24 hours, the senior Lambs repeated this narrative, shutting down any suggestion that Pete's actions might warrant police intervention. That evening, the family staged what Susie calls a forced repentance circle. Jonathan, Susie, Pete, his wife, and Marcus and Joni knelt together in the grand bedroom, heads bowed, eyes closed, reciting prayers of forgiveness. Susie watched in helpless fury as her in-laws treated the incident not as a legal or moral crisis, but as a spiritual misunderstanding to be prayed away. Excluded at first, Jonathan's sister Rebecca Lamb Weiss and her husband J.W. eventually stormed in, demanding to join the circle. Rebecca's voice rose in ecstatic tongues, like a war zone, Susie says, as she rebuked her brother and sister-in-law for tearing the family apart. When Rebecca confronted her father, "Why aren't you protecting her?" Marcus's shocking reply laid bare the family's priority: because of Pete's wife and their child. Later that night, Susie insisted her own children sleep in her room, not upstairs where Pete could reach them. Joni scolded her: "What about Pete's feelings?" By morning, gathered in the sunlit kitchen, Joni announced that God had spoken to her in prayer, affirming Pete's innocence. Marcus clapped his hands in delight. Jonathan and Susie left the house feeling betrayed, and more isolated than ever. For 2 years, they wrestled alone with their daughter's silence. Each day they watched her bright personality fade. She shrank from hugs, recoiled at Pete's name, and spoke in clipped, broken sentences. They feared her trauma would never surface again. Yet they feared more that their daughter's voice would remain unheard. In late 2023, armed with secret recordings of family meetings and detailed notes on the beach house incident, Jonathan and Susie returned to the Colleyville Police Department. This time, the investigation reopened. Pete volunteered for interviews and submitted to 2 independent polygraph tests, both passed, Daystar's lawyers announced proudly. But polygraphs measure physiological stress, not guilt or innocence, and are widely disputed in courts. Police collected phone records, witness statements, and medical evaluations. Daystar issued public statements insisting the network fully cooperated and that online rumors had misrepresented the facts. Joni declared the family united in love, while Marcus's successor as chairman, an uncle by marriage, reaffirmed that no credible evidence pointed to Pete's guilt. On May 14, 2025, Colleyville police closed the reopened case. They cited insufficient evidence and noted that the child had not provided a new outcry. Under Texas law, child sexual abuse claims carry no statute of limitations. Courts can reopen the case if the little girl ever finds her voice. Daystar framed the decision as vindication. "Our family is grateful for the thorough investigation," Joni posted on X. "We thank God for his justice." Relief rippled through Daystar's millions of viewers. For many, no charges meant Pete was innocent, the family was sound, and faith had triumphed. But Jonathan and Susie felt only hollow relief. Legal closure could not heal a child's broken trust or repair a family split along lines of loyalty and duty. As the dust settled, a new revelation rocked the ministry once more. In June 2025, Lisa Weiss, ex-wife of Joni's current husband, Christian counselor Doug Weiss, published an explosive video titled, "This Changes Everything, My Truth About Doug and Joni." Lisa laid out a timeline suggesting she and Doug were still married when Joni first courted him, presenting private messages and witness accounts to claim Joni and Doug's relationship began months before Doug's January 2022 divorce filing. She alleged Daystar insiders invoked divine destiny and prophetic visions to justify a 17-month-long courtship that some saw as a betrayal of Lisa and Doug's 3-decade marriage. In doing so, Lisa tied together Daystar's two biggest controversies, an alleged cover-up of child abuse and a swift, secretive remarriage at the network's helm. Supporters of Daystar dismissed Lisa as a bitter ex, citing her divorce papers as evidence of grievance-driven claims. Critics countered that secret marriages and hush-hush handling of abuse allegations revealed a culture that prized image over accountability. In church basements, living rooms, and social media comment threads, viewers grappled with hard questions. How do we protect children when spiritual counsel overrides compulsory reporting? When families run ministries, how do we ensure oversight and transparency? And how do we trust a network that preaches truth yet silences its most vulnerable voices? Legal experts weighing in reminded audiences that mandatory reporting laws exist for a reason, to prevent families and institutions from handling abuse behind closed doors. Child welfare advocates stressed the need for independent review boards in religious organizations. Journalists pointed out that genuine faith communities thrive on accountability and honesty, never on secrecy or spin. For Jonathan and Susie, the personal cost was staggering. They lost their jobs at the network, Jonathan demoted, then fired, Susie abruptly removed as co-host of The Green Room. They endured sharp family estrangement, siblings whose loyalties lay with grandparents or with their parents. They watched their daughter grow up mistrustful of adults, a shadow of the carefree child she once was. Yet they remained steadfast in their belief that speaking out, though it cost them everything, was the only path to protecting other children. Joni Lamb now faces a monumental reckoning. As president of Daystar and matriarch of its founding family, she must navigate conflicting roles: grandmother, corporate leader, and public figure. Her decision to marry Doug Weiss further entwined personal allegiance with organizational governance, deepening the network's vulnerability to scandal. Some in Daystar's board have privately discussed bringing in independent directors to strengthen oversight and restore public confidence. Meanwhile, Pete's life hangs in limbo. Legally cleared but socially shadowed, he remains a figure of speculation and suspicion. He returned to a quiet life outside the public eye, though his name still ignites heated debates online and in church circles. The 2 polygraphs he passed did little to quell the questions that swirl around his conduct. Yet perhaps the most pivotal character in this unfolding drama is the little girl at its center, a child whose truths were locked away by fear and familial pressure. All the board meetings, prayer circles, and legal motions cannot restore her words. Only she can decide when and if to speak again. When that day comes, and Texas law ensures it can, every listener, every leader, and every viewer will have to reckon anew with the events of that hot August day and the months of silence that followed. Until then, this saga remains a stark reminder: no ministry, however grand its mission, can flourish if it sacrifices compassion for loyalty or truth for image. Faith without accountability breeds cover-ups, and silence in the face of abuse is complicity in heartbreak. If you believe in protecting the most vulnerable, if you believe that every child's voice deserves to be heard, and if you believe religious organizations must hold themselves to the highest standards of truth and transparency, please subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon so you won't miss any updates as this story continues to unfold, because in the fight for justice and healing, our collective voice is our greatest strength.